Welcome to our resting practice in this culture that we're in. It's not a very restful place a lot of the time. We'll take a few breaths as we welcome ourselves. The rest is generative. Continuing to work with Tricia Hersey's book, Rest is Resistance. And I wanted to, in particular, open up a little into what are we missing out on? What have we missed out on in the past? And this quote of hers, when we honor our bodies via rest, we are connecting to the deepest parts of ourselves. What stories are we holding deep inside that are untold and uncovered because we are too exhausted? Let's pause here for a moment. What does that feel like in your body? Is there something here that's wanting to come forward, wanting to be seen, expressed? Depending on the phase of your life right now and what's happening, you might be in a position where you don't have as many demands on your time, where there are things that are a little bit more open for you maybe than there were in the past. That's something that's happening for me, working and doing things that I really enjoy. And I don't have a lot of outside demands on my time at the moment. And I remember times when I was a single parent when I never got any rest. Sense into, as you're looking back through your lifetime, where are you now? And maybe there are certain parts of your life that resonate with this. What are the stories that were untold and uncovered at that time? Rest makes us more human. I would say that's true. In a similar way to having a regulated nervous system makes us more human. We have more access to our humanity. When we're not tired, we're not hypervigilant, we're not in a survival mode, then life opens up in a different way than it does when we're just grinding through it, trying to get things done. We're afraid. And we all have had experiences of both sides of that for sure. The rest isn't a luxury, it's not a privilege, although in our culture, we're kind of set up that way. It's hard to make a living. Many people don't have the financial security, even for housing or food, let alone for vacations or time out to rest. So that's a symptom of what's going on in our culture and in our society that we can take really personally. We're running on adrenaline. Part of that is from the fear, part of it is from exhaustion. We're just pushing. And some of it is from COVID. 5 years ago, at the beginning of February, we didn't know that that was going to happen. We are seeing the effects of our culture, of our system, of the aggression, push culture, the grind culture in our lives, in our bodies, our nervous systems. But it didn't start 5 years ago. This has been going on for a while. What are we missing out on because we're navigating our life at a machine like pace? Just to acknowledge the times when we've done that. I have a lot of experience of working 60, 70 hours a week and then really not being very healthy, feeling kind of tired and burned out. I know a lot of us do. So, how could your imagination be cultivated with even 10 minutes of daydreaming every day? What comes to mind when you think about that? For 10 minutes, I'm just going to sit outside or lay on my bed or stare out the window. I'm just going to daydream. We're going to do a little bit of that in a few minutes. What does that feel like? Feels kind of exciting to me when I think about that. No particular meditation practice or breathing practice or anything, just daydreaming. When we believe in our own inherent worth, as we do through this work, as we start to really see the core deficiency beliefs are not true, and I'm not a machine. So we take a risk to stand up and say, this is my truth. So we rest, we cultivate this inner knowing, we begin to trust our intuition. I do this What does our heart know? A lot, because it helps us to get into our intuition, out of our head, out of our thinking brain, and to actually include our heart and our gut in our perception, in our wisdom, our intuition. So, rest and taking time for ourselves and being true to ourselves and healing, that's something that is not encouraged in our culture. It's going against the grain. So, what is in the way right now? So, if you were to imagine your life when you're more fully rested and living more fully, let's start there. And then we'll go into what would have to change for that to happen more. Let's take a few minutes to daydream about that. Just stare off into space or close your eyes, put your hands on your heart if you want. What would my life be? What would the rhythm, the pace of it be? Who would be in it? What would I be doing with my time? If I was more fully rested and living more in alignment with what excites me, what has meaning for me, what would that look like? Give yourself another minute or two just to imagine that. We don't have to pull ourselves back by being practical. Well, I can't afford to do that. Just to let yourself imagine there were no obstacles in your way. What would that look like for you? To wake up in the morning feeling rested, to move through your day feeling alive and not just in the grind. Let yourself feel it in your body, your breath. Take a few deeper breaths, soften your body. And if you were to give a big picture example of, well, this is actually why that's not happening, what are some of the elements of that? So it might be, well, I can't afford to just work one job, or I can't afford to go to sleep at night. I've got kids in the house, I've got a lot of demands. I'm expected to answer emails from work. So, what is in the way of you specifically right now, resting, living that kind of life that we were just daydreaming about? And take it through the layers. If it's, well, I can't afford to only work 40 hours, part of that might be financial, part of it might be I'm not going to get ahead at work, or my worth is not certain, so I need to work a lot. If you could go down a few layers, the only way I'll be accepted, people will be proud of me. And as you're doing that, really be careful not to shame yourself. We do what we do, and then we become aware of, this isn't really working as well anymore. Let's move into this next step. What is it that you've missed out on? We can always look at the cost and benefit. What does it cost us to stay really pushing ourselves, to stay engaged in grind culture? Part of it is personal. We kind of forget our humanity. We don't have as much access to joy and pleasure. We don't feel as connected. So there are some benefits, but there are some drawbacks as well. Again, with this big picture, and your mind might be really settled on one thing, one area of your life, and that's fine, or one time. If you were to skim back over, what have you missed out on? Part of what we're running into here is that there is not enough time to do everything we'd like to do. I remember when my son was young, I was trying to get established at work and kind of grow up. I had him when I was 20, so as I was moving through my 20s, I wasn't very mature. I wish now that I'd spent more time, and yet I did spend a lot of time with him. Looking at this from more neutral almost, not shaming ourselves. We're just looking, what were the patterns at play? What do I feel now? A little sad about perhaps, or some other emotion, anger at the culture that drives this. And then coming into the real depth of this exploration, if you're not happy right now with the amount of rest, the amount of time for pleasure and entertainment and connection, for eating healthy meals, for connecting with friends, with quiet time, if you're not happy with that where you are right now, what could you let go of? So, what could you let go of? But also, what are the beliefs that you have about this? Well, I can't let go of that because, or some of that relates to what we were looking at a few minutes ago. You might need to come back to I believe in my own inherent worth and that I have the right to enjoy my life, to work and live at a pace that's sustainable. And stay in touch with your body and your breath. Maybe daydreaming a little. If I was to let go of that, and maybe I would start singing again. Let yourself go where you're being led or guided. And what might have to go, what might have to be let go of to open that space. It might be something external, setting a boundary. It might be an internal belief. Let yourself really feel into this. And for most of us, we're probably part the way at least along this journey. We have some awareness, we probably made some changes. We might be noticing some pushback, maybe not. If I was to fully accept that it's okay for me to enjoy life, to be rested, organize my life in such a way that I can nurture that, what would have to change? And you might imagine that happening. Stay in your body. Be aware that you're doing a practice. Remember to breathe. And there might be something really specific coming up. Every single day, I talk for an hour on the phone to this person. Might be a parent or somebody who needs your help. And I'm finding that's really draining. So it's the hour on the phone and then it's time afterwards. I'm going to have a conversation and say, we need to cut this back or whatever that might be for you. So you could let yourself kind of imagine into that as well. The difficulty perhaps of setting a boundary, but also once you've set that boundary, what would you do with that time? How can you create enough space and time in your life to do what excites you, what brings you joy, to create more? And notice if you have limiting beliefs about this. Well, I can't do that. That would mean that I'm uncaring, or they'll fall apart if I don't prop them up, or whatever you might be thinking about this. It's not that those beliefs are right or wrong. We're just looking at them. Gabor Mate said once, if it's another adult, it's not our job in life to not disappoint other people. It's our job in life to take care of ourselves. And I would add to not disappoint ourselves. Take a look at the stories, at the beliefs that might be holding you back. And we don't have to be mean or cruel, but how could we open up more space? Time, emotional, social, work. What would that look like for you? And what would you do with that time? Let yourself also imagine the joy, the alignment, the pleasure. Allow yourself to really develop this in your body, in your mind as well. Really feel into that. What does it feel like as I daydream and as I open up this space? See yourself living in that more spaciousness, in more alignment, in more excitement. I'm fully rested, or at least I'm rested enough that I can move into this other arena, or maybe this exciting new place. Might be something big, it might be more subtle. Just for the next couple of minutes as we're finishing the inquiry, notice how that feels in your body. Let yourself fully imagine this. Let it be real in your mind, body. And as we're coming towards the end, notice if there's anything that you're surprised by, or anything that you're kind of saying, no, that's ridiculous. If you're giving yourself a hard time about anything, what was your experience like in the last 20 minutes? What is this longing in your heart? And how might you bring that into life?